Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40, brought to you by Homefield Apparel, part of the Nova Insider Network. I'm just so excited because I get to actually say for the first time ever that we are live, like literally live. And we're back. It's season 7 of the podcast. The 2023-2024 season just started, and I can't believe it. It just started. We just got back. Trevor literally was at the Blue White Scrimmage, raced home, cracked open, and
safely drove home. Safely drove home.
Safely. Fair enough. Drove home, and we're back live for the first episode of season 7 with a whole new look. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's just dive right in there. So first of all, our first episode without Rob Dormish. Cheers to Rob.
May he rest in peace.
Thank you for everything that you've done.
He's alive, but
he's alive. Yeah, he's still here. He's still with us. He's still living. He's still an actual person at the moment. But yeah, so it's with Chris, Willy, and Trevor. So just a total new podcast, and
new beginnings.
And we're back and live. So part of the Nova Insider Network. We did a press release over the summer. The Nova Insider Network now makes up a handful of shows. So the Full 40 is one of them. Chris Notaro, who's actually helping us quarterback this first live show. He does the pregame, the Villanova Tip Time pregame show. He's part of the Nova Insider Network. And of course, Tommy Godin is running the Mainline Minute, and he's also part of the Nova Insider Network, in addition to the spaces that we'll run from time to time throughout the season. So that's all part of the Nova Insider Network. And the coolest thing about that is that this season we are brought to you by Homefield Apparel. So the good brand. Willy is not wearing one, but me and Trevor are rocking it. The problem with Willy is that he also has Trevor's, and Trevor's called Shoddy.
We didn't want people to be confused over who was who.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. Yeah. So I got my normal, just Villanova intramurals.
There you go.
Repping all the time, sure.
There you go. And the hat. The hat's cool.
Yeah, great hat.
Although Trevor's really bringing it with the hat game.
Pretty spicy. Had to be there.
No, it's really sick that we got this Homefield sponsorship. This is super exciting. And I can't wait. And next week I'll be rocking probably that or something else.
Yeah. And so I guess we get right into that right there. We'll have an ad on every episode, but with the code FULL40, right? It's full 40. That's not
full 40.
It's full 40. You get 15% off your first order. So presumably a lot of you have already bought a ton of Homefield stuff. So just make up some new email addresses, maybe move, right? Like whatever you got to do.
Put the little dot in your email so it recognizes it's different. But
Yeah. Like if your email is just like your first name dot your last name, just be like your first name dot middle initial dot last.
Yeah,
it's just that easy, and then you get 15% off. So that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and they got some really good stuff, and I know there should be some new releases coming down, hopefully sooner or later. But I'm really excited. The promo code FULL40, and we're gonna be, like Chris said, we're gonna be doing this all year. So I'm really excited about that as well.
So
classic old school stuff. Can't wait to add more to the collection. You can never have too much of the classic logos that nobody else sells. So one-stop shop for all that.
I do want to say Homefield, this is for you, Homefield, if you're listening. We need more vests. Or a vest. So give us a Homefield vest. I know everyone in Villanova loves the vest. I know any non-Villanova people are like, yeah, classic Villanovans, they're with their vests. But honestly, give me a nice Homefield Villanova vest with like the 85 Wildcat in the corner. Oh, my next paycheck. Just that's it.
I totally agree. Like, first of all, so Trevor's rocking. So Willy, you got the 70s yellow hat.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Jack
Trevor's
Craft
rocking the 1985 logo, which he's head to toe 1985 right now. He wasn't even born. None of us were born.
I was going to say, were you born?
No, I wasn't born. I was close. I was a thought. My parents were thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even born yet. But Trevor's 1985 head to toe. I'm rocking the 90s dinosaur lettering, and this needs to become the throwback. That's the next throwback. Like, stop going back in time. Let's bring it forward a little bit. The 90s are back in right now. I think this is the time. Villanova's got to strike and get the dinosaur font there. Like,
it's been about 5 years since our last jersey update. Like, after 2018 is when we made the switch to kind of our current ones. Like, it's getting to be time. Maybe we go a nice little throwback, Yeah. Let's rock the throwbacks a little bit.
So in addition to your request to Homefield to do vests, I'm asking Homefield to put pressure on the Villanova athletics department and Nike.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of sway Homefield has, but I think that they should do that.
They're closer to Phil Knight than I am, so do something.
That's fair. All right. So I don't even know exactly where to start here, but we have a whole new look team. Trevor, you got your first glimpse of it tonight, but there's a lot to cover. We covered a little bit on our last episode of the on the 40s episode of the end of last season, but I think we probably need to go back over that a little bit just to remind people who's even on this team. So let's just start there and kind of unpack it and remind everyone where we are versus where we were last year. So we ended last year. We don't need to talk about that. I think we're good to leave last year in the past.
We won the NIT, remember that, everyone.
We played in the NIT.
We played in the NIT. We made the round of 32 in the NIT. So after that, Cam Whitmore went on to the draft. Funny enough, like, a lot of people were dogging him because he dropped way low in the draft, but then ended up having a great summer league. Was the summer league MVP.
Yep.
And so he did phenomenal there. And now him and Jermaine are on the Rockets, which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
Following that, we also had, obviously, Caleb Daniels and Brandon Slater moved on due to the fact that they had no more eligibility left. So that's the departures, and that's it. Sum total of the departures. Justin Moore comes back. Eric Dixon comes back. Everybody comes back. And then we add some really key transfers. Obviously, there was the whole Hunter Dickinson saga that didn't work out. But honestly, I think we scored really well. Many people think that we won the transfer portal. It sounded like that was like Trumpy in the way I said that. Like, a lot of people are saying that we won the transfer portal.
Many people are saying.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, like, Tyler Burton was a A10 superstar.
All A10, yeah.
Yeah, all A10 superstar. He looked really good tonight. TJ Bamba, I think it was the first transfer that we got. And I think he's probably the best culture fit that we got. Like, he's a Bronx guy. He like loved it. He wanted to play. He kind of has that hard-nosed persona. He was defensive minded when he was at Washington State. So he was he second team all Pac-12?
I think he was. There was a second team there. I can't remember.
And if you're part of a conference that no longer exists, does it count?
I think it counts more. I think it counts double.
Oh, okay.
Like, he's like the last. Well, he's going to be like one of the last ones ever.
That's a fair point. And then we had Lance Ware from Kentucky, a transfer from Kentucky. So he was kind of like the big man transfer that we had said that we needed. He wasn't the top flight, at least by the rankings perspective. He wasn't the top flight like guy who we wanted necessarily at the 5. That's not to say anything bad about him at all. In fact, if you talk to Kentucky fans, every Kentucky fan that I've ever interacted with on the internet was like, "You guys got a real great culture guy with Lance Ware," and they seem to think that he's got better potential than Calipari used.
So Providence fans.
What's up?
So
Providence fans would say the same thing. They trust me. We might have been like, oh, we fell into him a little bit, but yes, Providence. It's a little sore subject, but happy he's on our side. Good guy.
And I know we didn't get a chance to see him, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
The rumor mill is saying there's a little more perimeter game to him too. So we might see a little bit of like inside out with him and Eric, or him and him and Tyler, who knows?
And then finally, Hakeem Hart, right? So
Philadelphia guy.
What?
Philadelphia guy.
Yeah.
Philadelphia guy.
Local.
It's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because he's a Philadelphia guy, but was in Maryland. So
yeah.
So we got the DMV and Philly combined. So again, another guy who I think is a great fit. And we finally have depth at pretty much every position on the floor, which was clearly a priority after how thin we were last year. So those are the transfer newcomers. And then finally we added Jordan Dumont, who was also out for the Blue White Scrimmage today. But we also added him. So a really great haul from the portal, especially, and Dumont committed pretty early and seems very passionate about being a Villanova Wildcat. So you gotta tip the hat to the staff, to the NIL team, to the purpose building a roster that can be very much and legitimately competitive this year.
We adjusted, which I think is a huge thing. I think we, as Villanovans, have always expected, we're going to get, 3-4 freshmen, and then they're going to grow with us. And we didn't have that because of the circumstances of Jay leaving and then Kyle coming in, and there's just kind of a whole hodgepodge. And we adjusted, and we found, all right, we had this new opportunity with the transfer portal and NIL, and we crushed it. At least on paper, we crushed it. We did what we needed to do. We held up to a high standard, and now on paper, this team is ready to compete for the top of the Big East and hopefully a deep run in March. I'd love to say April. We're gonna start it up a little bit now.
Oh man, you're lucky that Brian's not on this right now.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes. We saw like 25 minutes of a scrimmage where half the team didn't even play.
I didn't need anything else.
We did see that that they were asked afterwards. So just to recap on the scrimmage, just for a minute, we did see that after the scrimmage. So Lance Ware didn't play, Jordan Dumont didn't play, and Justin Moore didn't play. We did see after the scrimmage that someone asked Kyle if this was a regular season game, would they have played? And Kyle was like, yeah, they're just a little banged up, day-to-day type stuff from practice. So at least as of right now, from what we know, now we've had our comments and points in the past about Villanova can be really, really too opaque about things like this in the past. So we'll see, but based on that response that if it was a regular season game, they would play, I tend to think this is probably just guys getting beat up in practice. No need to push anything for a simple Blue White scrimmage in early October, right? Don't get someone hurt at the Blue White scrimmage. So,
which Chris Arch took a shot to the face by, I think it was Longino got him when they were coming up the floor, and I think he had a black eye by the end of that actual, it was within minutes. You could see I was sitting kind of top of the lower bowl, and it looked bad.
Oh, man.
But
the Chris Arch guy, the two sides of the Chris Arch coin right now are flipping out at that comment right now. One side is like, good. That means that Neptune can't play him, right? And the other side's like, look how tough Chris Arch is. It's going to be like Rocky at the end of Rocky 4 with this
you should see the other guy.
Yeah,
exactly. The other guy was Jordan Longino, who stood on the play. Yeah.
Chris Arch's number one fan on Twitter is losing it right now. He's going
to. There were a lot of Archidiakono shirts in the stands. I'm not going to lie. I passed a whole family that was not his family wearing them when I was walking out. Just to clarify, it was not his family, but
15 or 4.
4. all number fours.
Number fours.
Yeah, no, it was cool to see just to be in the pavilion again and kind of an atmosphere. I think it's fall break and midterms this week, so not a ton of student representation, but there's a good showing. I thought whoever it was won the cup shuffle in between timeout prize, so they're in midseason form. The transfers looked really good, especially Bamba and Burton. Hazem was letting them fly. He was drilling everything from all over the floor. Well, Nana, it was fun to see Nana in a game environment, actually like playing and showing like why he's been here the last couple of years, and the injuries slowed him down, sure, but he was attacking the boards and looked good. Hopefully we have, like you said, just much needed depth at all these positions.
So Trevor, really give me a little bit more in terms of like, look, obviously in a Blue White Scrimmage situation, no one's going full boat, like no one's going, no one's going 100%. But you mentioned that Burton and Bamba looked really good. What in particular stood out?
They were making their shots. They weren't hesitating to take shots. Hazen too. Like I was pumped when it was just in transition, one dribble. I'm taking that. It's not touching the net going in. They were aggressive on defense. I thought they were moving well. They were rebounding. Everybody had a nose for the ball, it seemed. Yeah, and just like I said, making shots. It's easy to look really bad in a scrimmage if everybody's missing shots. But fortunately, the ball was going in for those guys especially. Mark Armstrong looked explosive, had some nice moves, great finishes, attacking the inside like he likes to do. Not totally there with his deep range yet, but like I said, it's a scrimmage. It's early. He did make a couple nice ones at the end of the final period. I'm trying to think who else really stuck out.
I'm going to be honest about Mark. I'm kind of happy he doesn't have the deep range yet, because if he gets the deep range, then all right,
then he's gone.
Yeah. Then he's gone. Because then it's like, all right, well, like he's just very clearly that guy at that stage. So Mark, figure it out. Maybe figure it out. Start figuring out by like February, March, peak in April. We win a title, we'll talk about you leaving.
There you go. Yeah.
Everyone's okay to leave if we win a title.
Yeah.
I guess from there, do we want to I think the biggest conversation, or the biggest narrative / conversation that I've seen is kind of like, what are the expectations of this team? Like, and I'm going to say expectations a couple different ways, right? Like, first off, let's just talk the minimum expectations in terms of like, what does this team have to accomplish, or it's going to be like blood in the water type situation.
Go ahead.
So then we could talk like, okay, like fundamental expectations, like, okay, this is what I actually expect. And then what's the team ceiling? Like, let's go through each of those pieces, because I think that we have to kind of hit on that. And I'll just tee off the conversation with the note that last season did not go well, right? There is, shockingly, you both are whatever. Last season did not go well. It wasn't good, right? And there were a lot of reasons. There were some excuses as to why it didn't go well, right? Now, a first-year coach can't be expected to, who's in his second season coaching, can't be expected to replace a Hall of Famer. So I think you could put definitely a handful of losses at Neptune's feet relative to Jay, right? You could probably put a smaller handful of losses relative to average coach in NCAA, right? Like, so some of that goes to Neptune's feet. You also can say the injuries were really significant, right? Like the two best players on the team by like rankings and whatever, and talent or accomplishment, however you want to draw it up. Two best players on the team were not there for long stretches of the season. And you had also other injuries and depth issues and whatever during the season as well, which is to some degree part of a college basketball season. Some guys are going to be out for parts of the time, right? Like a Jordan Longino injury. I candidly can't really say like, oh, well, it's a good reason. It's a fair reason, but it's not really an excuse that you can make, because every team has to deal with that. So stuff like that, right? Like the Moore Achilles, the Whitmore wrist, whatever hand situation. I think you could easily chalk that up to like, that's not fair, especially the timing of it all. Mm-hmm. All that's to say is that it didn't go well. And candidly, there's a lot of skeptics, rightfully so, about Villanova. Forget the talent on the floor, just looking at the coaching staff, right? Like, and what they're going to be capable of accomplishing. So So what it looks like to me, because we just got a report a couple weeks ago that Villanova has spent $3 million on this team, right? Like $3 million NIL on this team this year, right? Like not an insignificant salary, right? Like not an insignificant payroll. So, and just for the NCAA, if you're listening, it's not actually Villanova doing that. It's the Friends of Nova and the boosters who do NIL.
And I think scholarship money was also attributed into that as well. So
yeah, there is some scholarship money attributed to that. Right. But that's not insignificant at all, is a $3 million expenditure. We brought in these really high-end guys from the transfer portal. As we said, transfer portal champions 2023 hang the banner, right? But with that said, it kind of comes across to me a little bit like this is a little bit of a challenge. Like, hey, coaching staff, let's see what you got.
Yeah. So I think when we talk about like minimum expectations, we look at what happened last year and like not for nothing. Once we got healthy, once things kind of got figured out, there was a chance in March to make the tournament. It was a outside chance, but there was a chance. So when I think about what the minimum expectations are, I think barring injuries, barring someone getting hurt and like something actually happening this season, I put like you Chris, you called out the difference between what Kyle's at and where like Jay was at and what the median coach would be at. If Kyle makes the adjustments that he needs to and presses the right buttons during games, which we saw that he didn't do, which whatever, that happened last year. But if he starts hitting those right buttons at the right time, that those, let's say 2, 3, 4 wins that we probably could have had that we didn't have, I'm expecting, if not all of them, 75% of them. You add another 3 wins to the team that happened last year, it's a tournament team. So I think when we talk about minimum expectations, it's for this team to be a tournament level team. Does that mean a top 4 seed? No. Does that mean a play-in team? Probably at the basement of minimum expectations. I would take that. I wouldn't love that, but that's probably at the basement of minimum expectations. But all that to say, we also got better on paper. We got older on paper. We got, if we're doing a 1-to-1, there's the Slater and Hakeem Hart 1-to-1. There's the Bamba and Daniels 1-to-1. There's the Burton and Whitmore 1-to-1, more or less. And then we add in Ware, we add in Dumont, we add in a healthy Longino, we add in a healthy Moore.
And everyone gets older.
And everyone gets older. In theory, we are better. Even if you want to call, like, I'm not even going to compare. Let's say all those are 1-to-1, the same, like the transfers are the same as the players that came in. Like Burton is equal to what Whitmore did, all that stuff. We got better. So it is, for me, when I look at it, it comes down to Kyle and can we make the adjustments and can he make the adjustments that we need to during crunch time? Can we draw up the right plays? Can we recognize the flow of the game and what we need to do to just hit that level? I say the minimum expectation for this team is a tournament level team. I don't even want to get into like what the Big East implications are because we all know the Big East is different. We saw UConn was an absolute wagon the first 14 games of the season, got to the Big East and got their shit punched, and then got out of the Big East and was an absolute wagon. So like Big East, it doesn't really matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but like I'm not even looking at expectations there. It's just in the scheme of things.
Your point is whatever it takes, this team has to make the tournament.
Yes.
Right.
Trevor, is that kind of where you're?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to interject. If Brian were here, he would have stopped you to say it's harder to win the Big East than it is to win a national championship. Which we all saw.
That's an all-time Marquette tweet. All-time Marquette tweet.
Yeah. Was it Marquette or UConn? I don't even remember.
No, it was Marquette.
It was Marquette. Okay.
It was Marquette. They were getting on UConn because they were just like, yeah, you guys won a national championship, but that's easy compared to like going.
Right.
Big East regular season, the Big East tournament champion. You're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I think so before the Blue and White Scrimmage night, there was an event for, I think it was season ticket holders, where they do a Q&A with Kyle and there's order food, drinks, whatever. And Kyle kind of speaks for a little bit, recaps talks about what we can expect coming up. And then there's a Q&A. I did not make it in time for the Q&A portion, but what I heard was there were a lot of questions about substitution patterns, game scenarios, stuff like that I don't think, well, maybe were warranted, probably were warranted. But Kyle kind of put those to rest, it seems. Who are we to sit there and tell him about his sub patterns? But that was one of the things that a lot of us saw and recognized that we would like to see change from him. So I think that with the talent that we have, we should be able to expect.
Did we lose Trevor?
I think we may have lost Trevor.
All right, so we should be able to expect.
We're sitting here with Baden.
And we're in the same spot that we were when he started talking. So I'll interject with my thoughts here.
Yeah,
Willie, I'm kind of on your same page here. We absolutely it's now
really
the full 40
Trevor
with Chris and Willie.
Yeah.
But we absolutely have to make the tournament this year, or Kyle might be beyond the hot seat if we don't make the tournament this year.
Yeah.
Kyle might be gone. And it's weird for me to say that. It's very uncomfortable for me to say that because I very much built into my expectation set pre-NIL, pre-portal, right? That a head coach needs 5 years. You need 4 years for your first recruiting class to make way, plus an extra year after that. Like, that's my kind of belief when it comes to college head coaches. It's got to be 5 years
with NIL,
right? Yes, and with NIL and the portal, it does change, right? Like the fact is that you called it out. Kyle brought in like 15 years of experience onto this team collectively, right? Like this team has to be good, right? Like you have to take this roster to the NCAA tournament. Trevor's back, baby. We're back. We didn't hear your final thought. You were just like, and so the expectations are.
Oh,
and
I said win the Big East and win a national championship. Because one is much harder than the other. No, I agree with Willie. I think you're looking at you got to see the tournament field at least. Otherwise, there's going to be some serious questions asked at the end of the year, barring injury, barring anything freaky happening. But yeah, I agree with Willie.
Yeah. And what you didn't hear is that I was kind of on the same path, and I was basically alluding to the fact that I think if we don't make the tournament, I think Kyle might be gone. I
don't know if I'm there yet, but like
I think you give him 3.
If we don't make it with a fully healthy roster, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I go back to this. We started this. It's a $3 million roster. A lot of people have a lot of money on this.
Allegedly.
Like what?
Allegedly.
A lot of people have
yeah. It's also just like, it's not even just like the roster when I really like sit with it. I just sit back and I'm like, if Justin Moore is healthy, Justin Moore is worst case a top 15 player in college basketball. I would probably argue a top 8.
Preseason All-American, right?
Yeah, like he's preseason All-American. Like you have that player on your team. You have experience and depth. You have Bamba was an honorable mention, Pac-12. You have all A-10. You have I don't think Hart was all Big Ten. He may have been an honorable mention. But like just a defensive Swiss Army knife. Yeah, he had something. You just have that. You have leaps we expect. And then none of us have said this person's name this whole podcast. We have Eric fucking Dixon, who I'm to everyone else like is. I've seen people talking about who's the best big man in the Big East, and people aren't like they'll say Klingon, who I love, and I think Klingon is probably the best prospect. Not probably is the best prospect, and like probably the best big. Then I hear Kalkbrenner, I'll hear Iguodaro, I'll hear like Soriano, I'll hear all these different names or whatever it may be, and Dixon doesn't get the love, but like. If Dixon's not 1, or if he's not 2, he's at worst case 3, and I'll argue like 1. I'll argue like 1B to like you pick Klingon or Kalkbrenner. I don't care. But like what Dixon does and how Dixon warps the floor and how he changes the calculus of a basketball game with his inside-out skill or his outside-in skill, realistically, I don't know any other big man in college basketball that coaches will run off a pin down to shoot a 3 to win the game. Should we be doing that? That's a separate conversation. That's a completely separate conversation. But the fact that like Kyle has the trust in Eric to do that, and honestly, I kind of trust him to do it too. At some point, maybe he'll hit it. But like, that's just what it is. Like, we have this team. We have a top 10 player in college basketball. It comes, as long as there's no injuries, it just comes down to, can Kyle press the right buttons at the right time?
And just
yes,
so
but
I
think we should be talking about pressing the right buttons at the right time for making like a top 4 bye in the Big East tournament type performance, and pressing the right buttons to make a Sweet 16, right? Like, when I'm talking about pressing the right buttons, like look at the schedule. There's 20 wins on the schedule. Right, and 20 wins in the Big East this year is going to get you into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So between the out of conference, which is good, right, and
but not absurd,
right? Good but not absurd, right? Like, good out of conference plus a really, really good Big East. 20 wins is going to get you into the tournament. If Kyle can't get 20 wins, you're going to have a lot of people calling for his head. So maybe hot seat, maybe not. He's gone, but maybe hot seat.
I mean, to be fair, people are calling for his head now, and the season hasn't even
started. Right. Like, people in the middle of the season were like, "Fucking fire this guy," right? Like, and I think that was obviously crazy, but if that happens a year from now, 6 months from now, 5 months from now, it's going to be a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
And again, like, I hate to say that because it's like second year, but unfortunately, this is the situation that we're in this kind of era where, like, there's $3 million of money on the line. And I keep coming back to that number, but like, those people who have a lot of money on this are going to be embarrassed if that money doesn't translate. And if they're embarrassed, they're going to be calling the athletic director. They're going to be calling Father Peter. They're going to be calling the special assistant to Father Peter and saying, change this now.
All that said, I do want to give Kyle just like a little vote of confidence. I feel like as the year went on, it got a little bit better. The first beginning of the year was just a cluster. Like, that was just like, it was a mess. I think he's figured it out. It's very clear, and we can kind of talk about this and pivot towards this. Like, he knows how to connect with players. We had the transfers. We're starting to see in the last week and a half, and today, and then likely on Sunday, he knows how to connect with recruits, whether or not they're the recruits that everyone's like, oh, we need to be getting this person. That's not, but he knows how to connect with recruits. It's just, we just need to see when the ball's tipped, is he doing the right stuff?
Yeah.
I think it's getting there. I felt really good about us once we were healthy at the end of the year. Kind of got that, like, just false, like, oh, we're going to do this stuff. Like, I think, Trevor, you said this, like, the Philly fans are either distraught or cocky. At the end, I was distraught all season, but like, once Justin came back, I was that meter was turning towards the cocky side.
That 6-point loss to Providence, we're like, oh, we're back. They got lucky. We're just warming up, you know.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh yeah, we just went out. We have this. Yeah, we can do that.
If we just win every game, we're good.
I mean, that week when we beat Xavier and then throttled Creighton at home, I was like, oh, we're actually going to make this happen.
Yeah.
This is actually going to be a thing.
So I don't know. I think there was a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of, like, not even just like we won the game, but just even X's and O's wise that I was like really happy with from Kyle in those games. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll hear about a secret scrimmage versus like UVA in the next like 3 weeks or whoever it's versus, and we'll hear whatever came from it. But like, that's where, like, as much as the secret scrimmage is for the players, I'm also thinking this is for Kyle to be like, what can we execute against in these situations? Because, like, not for nothing, he's just a young coach. It's his third year head coaching. Like, he's a young coach. I think he can do it.
I think the addition to Ash back on the bench will kind of help with that too. We kind of overlooked that. We lost George Halkovich to the University of Buffalo job over the summer, but they brought Ashley Howard back over. He was working with Friends of Nova last year, so he was still close to the program, and then came back over, and he was coaching the one of the teams tonight with Nardi coaching the other one. So I just think having him on that bench will also be beneficial. Another guy with head coaching game experience and just more, he's never left, even though he, had lost that LaSalle job. He never left the sidelines basically. So it'll just be good to have another guy to whisper in Kyle's ear.
Trevor's really struggling here.
We good?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. I think
Chris, okay?
I could be struggling. Yeah,
Chris, it might be you.
We're all struggling.
Yeah.
So Chris is just better at hiding it, I think.
Yeah.
But that being said, do we want to talk a little bit about the new commits, or do you have another?
I think we should talk about commits because like Kyle's been doing the thing there. I mean, so today we got Malcolm Thomas.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. I think I'm back. Tell me if I'm
okay.
wrong.
You sound good now. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Sorry.
Right, cool. So talking commits. So obviously, let's even start. Last week, I can't remember, maybe Thursday or Friday, whatever day it is. We got Matt Hodge out of New Jersey. 3-4 hybrid.
He looks like Aaron Judge.
Looks like 4-3 hybrid. Looks really good. I tend not to pay attention to recruits until they commit because I'm like, there's too many that could go on. I don't want to get invested in anyone and then lose it. Then they decide to do something else, and then I have to like live with that and be like, oh, I'm so mad at them for going to whatever school they decide to go to. So Daryl Morcell, Stevie Mitchell, a lot of people who said they're like, no, it was my dream school, and then they didn't go. But like all this to say, I like Hodge. Seems like, has a bit of an outside in game, really good rebounder, tough, high motor. Seems like there's like a level of shot to him. Really does a good job of like backing up in the post. I think he's going to be like really good. Then we had today Malcolm Thomas, son of Etan Thomas, who was nearly a decade in the NBA. I want to say it was like 96 to 2005, something like that. But played on the Wizards, went to DeMatha, so played versus like really, really good competition. The websites call Malcolm a 4. He's honestly probably a bit of an undersized 5. That seems like what he's going to be. There is a bit of a shot to him, but like already what I've seen from Malcolm Thomas is he's a really good like shot blocker and seems like a really versatile defensive piece. And if that defense translates to the speed of college basketball and he's able to level up, like he's going to be able to do what we want to do of switching all over the floor. So really excited about him. And then allegedly on Sunday, there's supposed to be another commit. Why am I forgetting who it is? I'm blanking on his name. Josiah Mosley. And Mosley seems to be another good fit. 6'6", probably more of a 3 than a 4 from what I'm gathering. But Kyle's doing the thing. We're now connecting with a bunch of recruits. I was honestly on the stage of like, all right, what's going on just a little bit, especially when we missed on people like Christian Bliss earlier in the summer, where I was like, oh, this feels like why aren't we getting these people? He's hit 3 in a row. There may even be a 4th coming down the pipeline. And we know that we already know we can do the transfer portal. So I'm really excited to see what's happening with these young cats coming in. No pun intended, but kind of pun intended, next year.
Can we have some nuance in the conversation? So Willie, I think you're perfect in what you said, right? But can we have some nuance in the conversation? Because the Twitter conversation here is outrageous, right? You have a handful of people who are just like, this guy can't freaking recruit, right? And like he's not getting a single guy, whatever. And then you have a handful of people who are just like, doesn't matter, like it's fine, like whatever, portal, blah blah blah, like it's fine, like just give him a break, whatever. And then anytime we land a recruit, it's like, look at this, we're so great, we got to recruit. Like it's like okay, well, a high major program should land a couple top 150, 200 guys, right? Like on an average season, right? Like, and sorry, by the way, the number one person commenting on the podcast right now is Rob Dormish. Right, like I'm looking at the comments, and he's responsible for 4 of the 5 comments.
I don't know a Rob. I do know a Ron Dormish.
Ron.
He's a friend of Brian's.
So I don't know, Rob, if you just want to join the StreamYard link and come into this, you're more than welcome. Like, you're still welcome in. But anyway, what I was going to say was like, let's just find a little bit of balance here. This is a nice, solid recruiting class, especially if we get Mosley, whatever. It's a nice, solid recruiting class for the for a second-year head coach, right? Like he's going to get 3 top 150 guys, 2 4-stars and a 3-star, whatever. And candidly, the 3-star from the highlight reel, from the comments, whatever, seems like a really good fit. So, like, it can all be true, right? Like, this isn't the type of class that Jay historically brought in. A lot of people are just like, oh, we're all culture, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck off. Come on. Like, Jalen Brunson was a 5-star, right? Like, Jeremiah Robinson Earl was a 5-star. Omari Spellman was a 5-star. Like, you had high-end 4-stars who were top 50, 60 guys, like, left and right with Jay. So, like, this isn't that. But I do think that there's room to say that Jay also developed some of the best work was guys like Colin Gillespie, who was a 3-star at best, right? Like, Dante Cunningham was, not even, I don't even think was in the top 150, right? Became a multi-year pro, right? Like,
he's still playing pro.
Yeah. He's in China. Or whatever. Darren Hilliard was like a 2-star guy, right? Like, yeah. Bethlehem Steel was a 2-star guy and became like the key factor on a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament in 2015, right? Like, so like there's a little bit of balance here. It's roster construction is important, and you need a mix of guys who are really high end guys who are like pretty guaranteed to be good, and then you need to be good at identifying the talent at that 50 to 150 level.
Yep.
That can work in your program. So that's what I think is kind of like needed for the program. And I think that, hey, if we're going to do some work with the transfer portal, bring some really high-end guys in, bringing some lower-end guys, or not lower-end guys, it's not even the right way to say that, but bringing in some guys who are 4-stars or bottom 4-stars, like high 3-stars, is good. And it's a good, solid recruiting class for a second-year head coach, given what is going to be in the roster next year when they come in.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one of the key things is just like the development of the current roster. Like, I would love to snag a guard or we were talking the other day, a guard or a big man to add to this class. Like a traditional, like a 7-footer or a guard. But Mark Armstrong's going to be a junior next year. Brennan Hausen's going to be a junior. You still have Jordan Longino, the football player, the small forward. No, I think he's shaping it up to be a nice roster next year, should things remain as they are right now.
Right. And I do like what I see from the guys who we've gotten, right? Like, that needs to be said, right? I think that the guy today,
Malcolm Thomas.
Yeah, Malcolm Thomas is the guy who I am, oddly enough, out of all of what I just said, like, is the guy who I think is maybe misrated. Just from the highlight reels, from the conversations, the pedigree, all those things. Like, I really liked it. Like, it's weird. You could kind of tell, you could kind of see something about a player by what they choose to emphasize on their own highlight reels. Yeah. And he's emphasizing defense and blocking and stuff like that in a way. Like, I was like, okay, he kind of like wants to emphasize these roles that he's willing to play on the team. And the highlight reel looked a little Brandon Slatery, and maybe that's not a good comp, but it kind of had that vibe to me. Like, he was blocking shots. He's athletic. He's rim running. He's dunking. He's putbacks, like whatever. Like, maybe not the most developed offensive game, but defensive minded, like athletic, running, like really moves well with his feet, like all that stuff. I think that there's potential there with Malcolm Thomas. I really like what I see there.
Yeah. I mean, he, like you said, he was dunking in all of his highlights. He's dunking and he's really trying hard to dunk. And then the other point I wanted to make here was just like, I think he had a quote where basically he said, like, I don't expect to start. It may even be like I don't want to start. Something along those lines. And I read that.
So I think you were misreading that. He was saying that like I don't expect handouts, and that's not gonna. I'm not gonna start expecting handouts in college. Like I read that way first.
Okay. I read it as like I don't expect to start.
It wasn't. He hasn't been through his Ancients and Moderns class yet, so he doesn't have the he doesn't have the English the phrasing down quite where I think that was his intention. He meant I don't take handouts. Everything I have is earned. That's not, nothing.
Regardless, even that part's a great part. Because his dad is an NBA player. His dad made, 96 to 2005 was like a weird time for the NBA. He probably made like a decent, like 15 to 20 million in his time in the NBA. And like regardless, it's still good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. We've done well with players whose dad played in the NBA. I don't know if you heard this, but Jalen Brunson's dad played in the NBA. Oh. Did you guys know that?
I heard his dad went
Jalen Brunson, the basketball player?
Yeah, Jalen Brunson. He also played for Team USA this summer.
Speaking of which, is it time for a heart monitor?
No. We got to go back to expectation. We didn't even finish the expectations conversation.
I'm just excited to talk about the Lebanese national team.
We'll get there. We talked about minimum expectations. And so I do think that the expectations point for Kyle, part of that conversation is the recruiting. So I do think that was important to kind of hit that point. And so to the point on if this season doesn't go as well as we expect it to, the recruiting factor does help at this point if Mosley lands as well, because that's three guys who are solid guys who guys are okay. I want to see how these guys pan out. And so I think to the point of, hey, Kyle's going to get a third year, like as long as this year goes fine, then I think that point.
Yeah.
That point's important. What is your guys' actual, like, hey, this year I expect this to happen. Like, and I want it for Big East and NCAA tournament.
I'm like more or less my minimum expectations or my maximum expectations at this stage. So I expect an NCAA tournament, and that's like my ultimate like high. I cannot like, I guess the highest I will be like I hope for is a Sweet 16. Obviously, I would love a title, but like realistic minimum
within reason,
maximum, within reason is a Sweet 16. We get there, cool. Big East. I would love to be playing in the semis. I think like UConn, Marquette, it's a weird thing. I would love to be playing in the semis. Heck, I'd love to be able to be playing on Saturday in the finals. And like, regardless of what happens there, cool. But Big East wise, I think that's where I'm thinking about for the tournament wise. And during the season, I think what I would honestly like, the one expectation I actually genuinely do have is, I'm going to say it, we win on the road, either at Creighton or UConn. Pulling one of those two out will tell me like a lot about the guts of this team, or Marquette also, because Marquette's also a place that we struggled with historically, and also Marquette is
real good.
People could argue the number one team in the country on paper, like, so there's a lot there.
I think, well, first of all, I agree with you, Willie, on the Big East notes. For regular season standings, it's hard for me to wish anything worse than like a top 4 or top 5 finish in the regular season rankings. Obviously, if things fall your way, if the right teams if you get COVID at the right time, you can sneak your way into a championship. But
hey, that's a Georgetown joke now. That's a Georgetown joke now.
Georgetown joke now. Yeah, I think splitting with the UConns, the Marquettes, the Creightons of the world would be huge. I think my goal would be top 4 or better regular season. I'd love to be playing on Saturday. Make my trip to New York worth it, please. And then postseason wise, definitely need to be in the tournament. A dream season obviously ends in a national championship, but realistically, like we said, Sweet 16, Justin Moore and Eric Dixon, put the team on your back, get us to an Elite Eight, that would be outstanding. But again, ideal situation.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more detailed, but I think this team, I think expectations wise, I think this team needs to be a bye. I think this team needs to play their first game in the Big East tournament on Thursday.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that means 5 seed or better, right? Because I think the 4-5 game is the second, it's a 2:30 start on.
Yeah. Because the one's usually the first, right? Yeah.
And to the folks who are like, wait a second, why can't this team be better than that? I mean, maybe, but like minimum expectation, if you're just looking at the Big East this year, this is like go back into the annals of the Big East, like the Big East you waxed poetic about back in like the 80s or the late 2000s, whatever. All those teams, all those years in the Big East that you waxed poetic about, like it's back. It's back in a big way. Right? Because the team that you didn't mention in all of that is the team coached by like arguably the best active coach in Rick Pitino in St. John's, right? So UConn just won a national championship, returned a ton of guys, right? And has an awesome recruiting class. Marquette's really good and has a legitimate argument for a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranking walking into the season, right? Creighton is excellent. Creighton just made an Elite Eight, was like a couple balls bouncing the right way to making a Final Four, right? And they returned most of their guys. They did lose a couple, but they got some good transfers in.
Ashworth is going to be really good.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. And McDermott's like the best head coach at this point, or one of the best head coaches in the conference. So you got those three. You then have us. You have St.
Rick
John's.
Pitino.
You have Rick fucking Pitino, and he got fucking a guy who laid. He's got at like the 2. He's got a guy who laid 25 on us in the second half at the Pavilion last year in Dingle, right? Like and Soriano's back, who's obviously excellent last year. Like so Pitino's got a hell of a roster. Right. And so they're asking questions about how far can they go? What do they expect? Right. And then candidly, I think some people are sleeping on Providence, like because yeah, it's a first year head coach.
I am a Kim English stan. I love Kim English. I would play for him or any coach in the Big East.
Yeah, sleeping. Trevor's sleeping on him. Trevor's officially sleeping on him. But like they're returning Carter and Jesus Christ, I'm
Hopkins
and Hopkins, right?
You don't even know his name. You don't even know his name.
But he's gonna be first team All Big East preseason.
Right? You don't have Lance Ware.
But seriously, like Providence should be good. Providence should be tournament level good, right? So you have right there. I just rattled off 6 tournament level teams that I think should expect to make the tournament, and then we haven't even talked about
you're gonna say it.
Miller at Xavier. And so where are you going with all of this? Like it's going to be difficult to be the team that wins the Big East regular season this year is like is like
a top 4 seed minimum,
a top 2 seed.
Yeah,
right. Like should be. This is a gauntlet.
Through all this, I don't think you even mentioned Georgetown, and I know there's a whole bunch of like Cooley and all that stuff, but like. He reloaded that team. We know he's a good coach, regardless of the feelings of him leaving Providence and all that stuff. Like, this isn't Patrick Ewing's Georgetown from whenever he started coaching. It's also not Patrick Ewing's Georgetown from 82 to 84, but or 85. But regardless, like this Georgetown team also is going to be really good. Realistically, like the only teams I don't have super high expectations for, or like tournament comp, is Butler, who honestly maybe you never know when you go to Hinkle, DePaul.
Such a sad DePaul.
Yeah, DePaul, I guess. Yeah, sorry, DePaul.
One of these years, DePaul's going to just wind up at 500 in the conference, and everyone's going to be all over it.
And yeah, we haven't said anything about Seton Hall. I honestly don't have tournament expectations for them, but like they're going to be frisky. Like they're going to be frisky. Shaheen, I think, is finally like he's an interesting coach. I could talk about Shaheen Holloway for a while. He's a really interesting coach.
He
we'll see if it
calls
works.
like he sees
Yeah.
it.
Look, all that said is that I think expectations wise, I expect this team to play their first game in the Big East tournament on Thursday. Right. So like, that's kind of where I'm landing with that. And what I think that means is that the team should be favored to win their first round game in the NCAA tournament. That's kind of like where
So you're saying a top 8 seed then, essentially.
Yeah.
Or 9, like realistically.
Yeah. Favored. Yes. Right. Favored to win their first game in the NCAA tournament. Like 6-11. I don't know if that's the right number, but like 6-11 and being the 6, right? Like,
yeah.
So like that to me is kind of where this team is like my expectation set. And then so like, okay, you get there, you do that, and so like a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament is a top 25 team.
Yeah.
Right. Just like mathematically, right? Like, so like, that's kind of where I'm at with this squad. Get to there, be favored in your first round matchup and be dangerous. Right. And so with a lot of new pieces coming in or whatever, you could understand if they get hot late and they start to play better late, but having done enough work to earn that bye to the Thursday of the Big East tournament, get a 6-7 seed or better in the NCAA tournament and be favored to win a game and have a chance to make it to the Sweet 16. That's kind of like my expectation for this squad. Now, in between my expectation and that minimum expectation, so to speak, like it's like fine, like I could live with that. And then from there, I would say high end, like, could this team go on a run and make the third weekend? Like it could, like on paper, it looks like it could, but I would probably say my high end expectation is like an Elite 8 squad that's like in that Elite 8 game. That's kind of like the high end.
Yeah. That's good with me.
I'm glad you.
I agree. I mean, I'll take that. Do we want to talk a little bit about the heart monitor? Because
I think we do have to hit that. Yep.
Yeah, we have some FIBA stuff we want to talk. But before that, I need to issue an apology to Etan Thomas. I misrepresented how much money you made in your career. I also got the years wrong. Time's weird. I remember you in mid-2000s playing for the Wizards on like the Gilbert Arenas and Antoine Jameson teams and being the center or one of the backup centers there, along with Brendan Haywood. I remember all those teams. You were there where Jarvis Crittenton took out the gun and the whole locker room fiasco. You made $44 million in your career over 11 years. So like Malcolm Thomas definitely, if he's saying he's not taking handouts, like you made double what I thought you made. So I apologize, Mr. Thomas. If you can donate to Friends of Nova or use the promo code FULL40 to buy some more merch from Homefield, we really appreciate that. And honestly, you probably need some now. And I saw you in the video, you had some, but like maybe there's a little bit more. Go to Homefield, promo code FULL40.
Dinosaur lettering.
Yep. But I want to quiz you guys right now, but on a heart monitor really quick. How many players NBA players are on a roster right now?
Can I just start naming them?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Jermaine Samuels, Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
Yep.
Brandon Slater's in an Exhibit 10 for the Celtics.
Yeah, we're not going to count that, but that kind of counts.
Sadiq Bey on the Hawks, Kyle Lowry on the Heat. 4 Knicks, 4 Villanova Knicks, which is Arch, Dante, Jalen, Josh, Mikhail holding down the fort across the what is that? What do you take, the subway? I don't know New York geography.
I think you can take the J.
Sure.
Rob would call it the East Side River. Rob, one time I was like I said, one time we're standing at a rooftop bar on the Hudson River in meatpacking, and he goes, "Oh yeah, West Side River looks great," or whatever. Something was his quote, and I'm like, "The fuck you talking about? It's a Hudson River. Like it's like the thing." Like I get not knowing the name of the East River because it's dumb. It's just a directional river, right? Like,
but if there's an East River, West Side there must be a West River.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did Did I say Sadiq Bey? I think I did.
You did
You
say
did.
Bay. You missed one.
And
I
does
think.
are we counting Cole Swider?
No. Okay, so there's 2 you missed.
I said
That's
Or maybe
10.
3. You're at 10.
tell me who I missed.
So you missed. I don't think you said JRE.
No, he did.
I did.
He
I
did.
Oh,
did.
then you missed Cam.
Oh god.
He didn't say
You missed Cam. Then that's what you missed.
Oh man, bummer.
this guy barely got drafted.
So yeah,
He was barely
11
here.
11 players on a roster actively with Slater on an Exhibition 10. I think Caleb is also on an Exhibition 10.
He was in Summer League with Miami.
And then I think they gave him a roster.
Okay.
I think he might also be on one. So like give or take 13. If we want to have like 13.5 for Cole Swider or like 13.8 because he was here for 4 years and then went for his 5th year or 3 years, whatever it was. Regardless. So yeah, all that. We can talk about everybody else, but I think we have 2 things we need to talk about realistically. The FIBA boys. So Josh, Jalen, and Mikhail. 4th place in FIBA World Cup. I don't know if anyone's watching it. I was watching it religiously. Was I up at 5 a.m. watching games? Yes. Was I up at 5 a.m. to watch like Slovenia play? Yes, I was, but it's because I'm a sicko. It's disappointing because that team honestly had the talent and should have won the title. I honestly blame that on Steve Kerr because he did a terrible job coaching or terrible job making decisions. But more importantly to everyone here, the Nova Knicks. The Nova Knicks are here. The Knicks are back. Coming off a playoffs year, Dante, Ryan, Josh, and then some guy named Jalen Brunson. For absolute, just the 2016 team is back on the Knicks, and honestly, like I'm very excited. The Sixers are a mess, so like I'm investing a little bit more of myself into the Knicks because I hate the Sixers with a passion because they're a bunch of assholes, and I'm really excited about these Nova Knicks. I think Dante was a great addition. He got his first big payday. Arch coming back. Josh, opting out of a player option to then get more money, but then that allowed Dante to come in. Jalen, who was one of the leaders on Team USA, should have been an all-star last year, like is a genuine top 25 player, top 30 player in the NBA, which is insane. Like, I think we all thought Jalen Brunson was going to have a long NBA career. There is not a single person, maybe with the exception of Jalen Brunson, Rick Brunson, Sandra Brunson, Erica Brunson, his entire family, who thought he was going to be a top 30 player in the NBA.
I mean, I said it. I didn't believe it, but of course I said it. We all said it. Well, at least I said it.
Ryan Hartnett believed it.
I believe Ryan believed it. And then Mikhail also, if he's not top 30, he's top 40 in the NBA as well. Like both of Mikhail and Jalen, I honestly genuinely believe could be all-stars this year, which is going to be really cool.
Yeah, they are 2 of the best 5 players in New York right now.
Would you say
we have some people in the chat
sports
who are saying that they believe
Yes.
that Jalen Brunson would be a top 30 player?
Of course they did. Yeah. I also think Josh Hart is the most content player in the NBA right now. He had some ridiculous line the other day of how, like, yeah, I got paid. I just need my wine cellar and a country club membership, and I'm all good. He is the most content man in the NBA right now.
Guy's just living. He's just happy. I love it, though. I love it. The whole thing, the whole playoffs with the Knicks was incredible. The fact that they're adding Dante and Ryan to that whole situation is going to be incredible. It's going to be must-watch television for Villanova fans to watch them. And candidly, with the way last season went, like for Villanova, like being able to like enjoy the Knicks throughout after that and kind of in the playoffs was like a nice little like a reminder that we're still here and we're still a relevant entity and we're still like going to exist into the future because we got guys in the league. So it was nice.
So something I was thinking about, and I haven't done the research on it. I think it may have happened. But I'm going to just say, like, from the negative side, I don't know if Josh, Jalen, Ryan, and Dante ever played a game together on the floor at the same time.
So Dante got hurt.
But he played his first 8 games.
Like 4 or 5 games into his freshman year.
Yeah. but would that lineup have been on the floor is the question.
Yes, had to have been.
I think so.
Had to
I
have
don't know.
been.
I'm gonna do some research, see if I can figure it out, to see if I can actually see if, like, I might go back to game box scores and literally look at substitution patterns to see if I can find it, because I'm curious. Because I was like, wait, there's a chance that it didn't happen because Dante was like the last man on that team coming off. So like, there's a chance that like maybe they would have like switched him and Ryan or switched him and Jalen, and like because you forget like. Ochefu and Jenkins were also on that team. Like that's like another 2 players that like would have taken that. I'm definitely forgetting someone else. I don't know why that was on that team. Mikhail, who also like wouldn't count in this situation. So I don't know. It's close.
Yeah, it's definitely just like for a nostalgic factor. It's just fun. Like, Ryan's never going to see the floor, but it's just fun. Like the media day pictures, like everything. And that's not a slight against Ryan. It's just it's great that he's there and has
made $10 million.
Get the new place in Sea Isle, dude.
You got married.
Yeah, everybody, all the Villanova guys got married this summer, or all being Jalen, Ryan, Kevin Rafferty, who is a walk-on stud. Bunch of Nova weddings this summer. Always looks like so much fun. I'm waiting for the invite, guys. When you need the. We could podcast your wedding.
Maybe Colin will invite us.
Yeah.
I think that's our hope, Colin.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot Colin. I didn't mention Colin.
You didn't mention Colin?
NBA roster. No.
Oh,
you didn't notice that I didn't mention NBA champion Colin Gillespie.
The boy.
Guy just wins.
All he does.
Just all he does is win. All right, guys. I think we're good here. This is kind of like the kickoff episode. So just to think about a couple of things from an administrative perspective, we're going to have 2 more episodes before the season tips. We'll be on Twitter announcing, and Instagram, etc., all of the follows that you need to have. We will be on those platforms announcing when the next 2 episodes are. So pay attention to that. We will be running live all season. This is the format that we're going with from here on out. And so we'll be doing that. We'll have some interviews throughout the season, etc. We're going to try our best to kind of publish a schedule in advance so you guys know when to expect us. A little bit based on kind of how the schedule falls and whatever. We'll mix in some spaces in between to kind of account for items or big items that we might have missed or might not hit in a regular podcast with a cadence that we keep, which is roughly once a week once the season starts. So that's kind of what to expect, but we're going to be doing this all season long. So stick with us. You can find us at the Full 40. My Twitter is at ChrisFull40, at Willy Law, at KRWR17, something like that. Yeah. At Nova Insider 1985 for Twitter, at Nova Insider on Instagram. You also have, please follow Villanova Tip Time at Nova Tip Time. Follow Tommy Godin. All of that. We got the Nova Insider Network is coming to you constantly. You're going to have the Full 40, which is going to be like discussion show. You're going to have Tip Time, which is going to be all about the pregame show. Because who wants to watch motocross, whatever the fuck is on Fox Sports 1 before our games? That doesn't make any sense. Just tune into Nova Tip Time. And then finally, you have the Mainline Minute, and Tommy's going to be serving you like quick, easy, bite-sized news and notes on a semi-daily basis so that you guys can just plug in, get your 20-minute download of information from Tommy on a nearly daily basis. So we got you covered on all the bases for the Nova Insider Network this year. But that's it for us today. We'll be back in a couple weeks with the second episode of the season, where we break down a little bit more of individual players' expectations and kind of go into that a little bit deeper. But thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, let's go Nova.